Crucial Conversations, we talk a lot about silence and verbal violence and how we should avoid them when it matters the most. We learn skills to bring us out of those unhelpful behaviors, learn ways to bring others back into dialogue when they are engaging in either, and yet there are still times when silence appears in a more challenging form, when people actually silence us. This can be done in many ways, such as a stern look, actually being shushed, interrupted or shut down as we're speaking, or maybe even being intentionally ignored. None of which are good, and none of which usually bring up warm, fuzzy feelings for the person being silenced, and none of which create the necessary psychological safety for us to discuss our most important things in a very open way. Yet silencing does happen. And when we deal with it, if you're anything like me, we probably don't respond in a helpful manner all of the time. Learning some ways to respond differently can help, and this is important because we don't want to lessen the impact of what has happened, us being inappropriately silenced, by reacting in a way that turns the attention away from that violation to our behaviors. Here are some things I've learned. Fairly often, being silenced happens because the other person may not feel safe or they're completely unaware of a bad habit. Sometimes the person who silenced you may not agree with what's being said, they may not like being held accountable for something, they may not have the answer, don't want others to know, or maybe they were caught up in a passionate topic and were dominating the conversation unintentionally. Imagine that. Flipping our brain to consider some of these reasons can help it feel less like an insult or an attack and more like a defense mechanism, which could lessen the emotions that might be raging inside of us. So consider what factors might have been at play as you prepare to address the silencing. Approaching a person who may be silencing you, and especially if there's someone that seems to have more power and privilege than you, could be uncomfortable. And in those instances, even if the silencing was intentional, consider what you would love to get out of this conversation with the person, and frame the conversation around how that relationship can lead you to be more successful at work. When you have the conversation with the person who silenced you, do your best to focus on the actual behavior versus the emotions you may be feeling. And yes, this can be super hard. Try to focus on how the act of silencing can often be counterproductive and definitely hurtful to relationships that we're trying to maintain or even enhance, and definitely to the results that we're trying to achieve. Actively explore together ways to make sure everyone feels a sense of belonging, valued for who they are, and encouraged to be themselves. Thanks for watching. Visit cruciallearning.com/saythat for more tips and resources for how to speak up when it matters most.